This is Coach Schumann here for Success for Life podcast. Welcome back. What I can't remember now if we're on season 5 or 6, but this is our third episode in interviewing guests this season, this spring. With me, I have Sara Sabin, who is a person that will help you build your coaching business. Someone that wants to get into being able to help others build their businesses. She helps entrepreneurs build theirs. This is someone that is going to be an important person to listen to on how to grow your business, the tools to be able to do that. And without further ado, and she's coming to us from overseas as well. So uh,
London.
from London. Without further ado, let me introduce Sara Sabin. Welcome to the Success for Life podcast.
Hello, David, and thank you for having me on the show today.
So this is a topic that a lot of people are interested in, and everyone wants to build their business. Everyone wants some level of coaching. Don't know how to go about those things. They don't understand the industry has a lot of dark clouds over it, in the sense that there's a lot of people claiming to do certain things within that field. So it can be difficult for people to navigate. Tell us a little bit about how you developed your process within coaching. What do you do that kind of differentiates yourself with others within this business? And then explain a little bit about coaching and what it is, because I think a lot of people are confused about that.
Absolutely. I think coaching, mentoring, and consulting are 3 terms that are used kind of interchangeably. But my definition of coaching is it's a process designed to draw out of the person that you're coaching insights into themselves, their behaviors, their habits that they need to change because it's holding them back. Consulting is where you basically say, you want to achieve X, Y, and Z. Here are some ways that you can achieve X, Y, and Z. Let me help you get there. So what I do is really a combination of coaching and consulting, because I found that is the most effective thing to get entrepreneurs to where they want to go faster.
So you're not just obviously advising them, then you're also helping them navigate those pitfalls and helping them within their business as well. So that's kind of like a second stage part of it with the consulting. Um, why do they need consultants or coaches to be able to help them? And I'll kind of preface it with this. Um, uh, I've run my own business since 2002-ish time frame. Had pitfalls, had a ton of success. Um, Gone through that road, had different mentors along the way. Uh, I've had coaches that I've worked with, and myself. If you look at my background, I was a football coach for 20 years. So I understand the part of helping others get to where they want to get to. How do entrepreneurs find the right coach to help them build their business? Because I think it's a mentorship, not just coaching. And there's so many people that charge for coaching. Like you can't scroll one thing past on TikTok or Facebook without, especially if you're an entrepreneur, without getting exposed to somebody selling something in coaching, right?
Yeah.
So tell a little bit more about that. What you think people should be looking for.
So it's a really, really good question, David. How do you find the right coach? Number one, find a coach that has done what they are helping you to do. So that's point one. And what I mean by that is I've been an entrepreneur myself. I've changed career multiple times. I've built up a sustainable, profitable coaching business myself. And so I walk the walk of what I do with other people. So honesty and integrity. Secondly, you can be a good on paper coach, right? So you can be the best looking coach in the world, but if you speak to that person or you watch them or you listen to them and you're like, I don't really resonate with you, there's no real chemistry there, you really shouldn't be taking that person as your coach, because coaching and consulting is a partnership. I can help you to get somewhere, but you need to do your part of the equation. And you're more likely to do that with someone that you know, like, trust, and resonate with. So those are two key things.
Are there measurables that can be used? So I think one of the things that lacks in the coaching industry is measurables, right? I'm working with you. We set these goals. How do you help entrepreneurs establish measurables? Obviously, first of all, for your business and coaching side, so people understand where they're going. So obviously, you can have successful, repeatable things for your clients, but also for the entrepreneur to be able to understand, okay, here are the milestones. Are they milestones? Are they metrics? What are they?
So it's a combination of the tangible and intangible. So I work with already successful, high-performing entrepreneurs, and that's how I built up my six-figure leadership coaching business. And essentially, if there weren't tangibles, then I'm not doing my job properly. We need to decide at the beginning, what are you looking to achieve? Are you looking to 3x in the next year? Are you looking to 10x your revenue in the next 5 to 10 years? Are you needing to increase profit margins because you're taking on lots of work that is a pain for you and is really low margin? So I look at all those tangible things as well. And what's interesting is, even if you know that in practice, so one of my former clients used to be a transformation consultant for corporates. So he was the guy that used to go into corporates and say, right, you need to do X, Y, and Z to meet these objectives. When it came to running his own business, he kind of got lost. So you can't see the wood for the trees anymore. So you need to be clear about what you're trying to achieve before you even start. And the intangibles are stuff like, are you happier, more productive, more satisfied, fulfilling your purpose, etc. And again, if we're talking about a coach building a business, how much revenue do you want to make? What kind of clients do you want to work with? What kind of services or products do you want to offer? And you work from that premise and you work backwards from that.
Interesting. And along the way, how does someone who's working with you, how do they begin to track those things? And where, when things don't meet expectations for some reason, how do you adjust the path? What an entrepreneur goes in and says, we both agree that there's we're going to sell X widgets. There's a market for it. We develop a path. You kind of coach me through it, and then X widgets don't start selling, right? So the first instinct, which is probably the wrong instinct, is the entrepreneur to say, oh, well, the person that's working with me, helping, guiding me is the issue. But really, it may be we need to adjust the marketplace. We may need to do this or that. How do you anticipate those things, and how do you help them get on back on path when things could go, as they do in business, derail?
Well, first of all, you can make all the plans in the world, and your plans won't always go to plan. Let's face it. So we can build out a plan, and we're going to say, okay, you need to focus on these 1 to 3 things that are going to help drive these widget sales. Now, we are tracking, is this working? And you have to do the work consistently over a period of time, but you need to monitor, tweak, and course correct. Now, after 3 months, if one of the things you're doing is really not working at all, cut it. Don't continue banging your head against a brick wall. You want to get to the point where you're laser focused on the things that you can leverage, because you know that they really work. But sometimes there's a bit of an experimentation process whilst you're finding out what it is that really works. But generally, when I go and start working with entrepreneurs, if you've heard of shiny object syndrome, they're trying to do 8 million things at once. and they're not even sure which of those things are moving the needle. They're not really sort of tracking and course correcting as much as they could. So that's my job, to help them to see that and to action that.
Is an entrepreneur when I started my business, I originally was in the training business, training athletes, and then we had a facility and we started building that up. And then I added in events. If the event business took off, eventually sold off the training business, and then focused on events. When we originally started with events, we were laser focused on a certain type of event. Got wildly successful, and I'm just telling the story because I'm sure you could to help the everyone listening understand how it could go off path. We had a ton of success. We had very few competitors for a long time, meaning like 5 or 6 years. We were really within our niche. We were the only kind of game in town. Then we expanded, so into other types of events. Continued to have a success, but we left the door open by doing that into our original area. As competitors came in, they slowly eroded different things. Now we kept adjusting, but I use that as an example. As you get to a certain point, right, and you have a lot of success, and then in order to continue to grow as a business, you want to add other services. But when you do that, you leave the door open for your competitors to jump into a weakness. So how, as a coach, how do you help entrepreneurs understand you got to nail this niche, and then they go and they say, well, we nailed this niche, we're $1 million business, right? But those and I've been there, I grew my business up to around $2 million. Once we got up to there, we said, whoa, we don't have enough, right? So then we went to take the next step. And then it was a kind of a costly mistake for a while because we went to take the next step and we didn't have our ducks in a row. How do you help them navigate nailing the niche and then growing beyond their niche?
So number one, when you're thinking about expanding out and you're adding in different products, do you have the team, resources, etc., to really support that growth? Because that can cause problems if you're diverting everything away from what you were originally doing and putting it somewhere else. So that's one problem that I tend to see. If you're going to expand into other areas, you're going to need other resources as well. Now, it also comes down to an acceptance as well, that if you're going to focus on other areas, then the original area might become less prominent or might decrease as part of your business. So it comes down to whether you accept that you want to do that. But given enough money, time, and resources, you can continue to grow. But you need to get the business to a stability where you can do that more easily. But the other thing I'll say is that sometimes things don't last forever, especially in the events business, because I've had an event startup in the past. What worked for a few years suddenly isn't as popular, isn't as trendy, doesn't work so well anymore. So if you remain stuck on that and you're like, right, I will stubbornly continue to provide this event for an ever and ever and ever,
right,
then you're not seeing the evolution of things. Sometimes you have to let go of what you were originally doing to move into things that are future trends.
That is a fabulous point right there. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck on this. You have success in one area. I mean, and in some cases, wild success, right? And events is a great example of that, because you could have wild success for a certain time period in one area, and then you're trying to figure out why you don't have that same success. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with anything you're doing other than trends may have changed. My prime example, obviously, of someone who started out in a niche and then kept adding and is wildly successful would be Amazon, right? So they were books, they were attacking Barnes and Noble, which almost buried. They completely buried Borders Books and some of the other smaller book outlets out there. And now you basically have in books, you have Amazon, a few mid-sized players, and then you have, your bookstore that we all get coffee at and sit and read. That's all you have now. You don't have a bookstore in every corner. But what was interesting is how they made the jump successfully. I mean, obviously they're in technology, they're in movies, they're in everything now, right? Entrepreneurs who want to be some version of that. So you brought up resources, beyond resources, because obviously Amazon's throwing resources at things. That's definitely, but what kind of ingenuity do you think is required of the entrepreneur skill set wise to have that ability? Because not everybody should do that, right? Jeff Bezos has a unique skill set, right? There are other people that have that unique skill set, but some entrepreneurs don't have that unique. What are required? What do you think are some of the requirements, and how do you advise entrepreneurs? Is, hey, you should stay more in your lane. You should expand. What are some of the things that you use to assess that in them?
So let's face it, the reality is most people will never be the Elon Musks or Jeff Bezoses of the world. They are a certain type of person. They are visionaries. They are different from someone that maybe wants to grow a 7 or 8 figure business, right? So a lot of people would be happy growing a 7 or 8 figure business. And if you want to grow a smaller business like that, if you have as much going on as Amazon, so you're in books and movies and whatever, you can buy anything on there, but it does not serve you to go into so many areas. So it comes back to, well, what's the end result? What's the big vision here? Is your big vision to really be the best in a particular niche, to focus on your area of expertise, to build a eight-figure business, let's say? If so, you shouldn't be using Amazon as a business model, because it's just not suitable for what you want to build. If you want to build a billion-dollar company, that's a whole different ball game. You're going to have to diversify and expand. Again, if you look at Virgin, for example, travel, everything, travel, music, etc., etc. So I think people need to really differentiate between billion-dollar companies and multi-million dollars.
Right. What would be something that they should look to, entrepreneurs, or what do you advise your entrepreneurs to look to as examples of how within their own industry they can be successful but different at the same time, right? Because you don't want to, and there are times you want to copy other people, but there are times that you really need to differentiate in order to have a chance to succeed.
So if we're talking about something disruptive or innovative, and most of my high-performing clients, who for reference are usually in the kind of 7-figure mark, they are basically people who want to have a very clear idea of what they want to achieve, and they may not have the exact vision that they can work backwards from, but it's more a case of they've been falling forward. So they started with an original idea and they're growing organically, which is different from working backwards from an idea, if you see what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. So then the next question is, as far as the type of people you like to work with and the individuals that you find have been most successful with you, what are some of the characteristics and skill sets that they've had that you felt you worked with as a coach well?
So number one, you have to be coachable. So what I mean by that is open, realize that you need to continuously improve, especially because in today's world, everything is changing. You can't cling on to one business idea or one thing or one model that worked for you forevermore, you have to acknowledge that things will change. So you have to have that drive to learn, grow, and develop all the time. Self-awareness is key. So know what you're good at, know what you're not good at. Start seeing through your own BS. So I hear a lot of, oh, well, we're not doing so well because of market, because of external circumstances, etc. So the question I always ask is, are other people in your niche, in your field doing well? And they're like, well, yeah, but, you know, yeah, they are, but they're different. You know, why are they different? They're no different from you. They just have a different attitude. So it's about attitude. It's about being decisive and being focused. So those are all key traits in people that are successful. And, you know, I was listening to another podcast recently, and they were talking about how the number one trait of successful entrepreneurs is the ability to make decisions and stick to them. And guess what the number one reason why entrepreneurs fail was? They don't make decisions. So they're kind of stuck in limbo forever and ever.
Right. They don't actually take the next step to make a decision on something. They just float, tread water, and hope for the best. That's a mistake. Where as far as clients in your background, the past have always started right with people's background. Now I'm getting right into the nitty gritty, and then I want to go a little bit into your background. So tell me what your background is, schooling wise, as an entrepreneur, and how you got into all of this.
So I'm going to try and put this in a nutshell version. I went to a grammar school, which, to explain to anyone outside of the UK, is a selective free school where you do an entrance exam and then you go to school. So I was there. I went to university. I studied law at university, English and French law. I lived in Paris for 2 years. And then I became a tax accountant. I, at the time, just loved tax law. Sad but true.
God bless you.
So I was doing that at a top 10 accounting firm, and then I moved to what's called a multifamily office. So I was looking after a portfolio of high net worth individuals and families. Now, the seeds of unrest, I think, started about 8 years into my corporate career. I was like, I'm not really happy anymore. And I could move job because that's what everyone does. But actually, I don't think that's going to cut it. Let's kind of sit on this and think about it. So it's around that time that one of my friends said to me, hi, Sarah, would you like to co-found a startup? This is back in 2014. And me being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I was like, oh, sure, how hard can it be? Which kind of marks me as a person. I'm a person that takes action. If I want to do something, just go do it. So we started that business, and we did a lot of events, conferences, networking. We had a whole load of online resources. We were doing recruitment. In retrospect, that business was not focused enough. Now that, you know, I'm talking about it, but it was doing well. So I was like, right, I'm going to leave my corporate career and I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur. That was at the end of 2015. 2016, my relationship with my co-founder broke down. So her vision went that way, my vision went that way. And I said, okay, well, this is your original idea. I'm going to let you just get on with it. I'll retain small shareholding and I'll go do something else. So by that point in my life, I knew it was entrepreneurship or nothing. So essentially, I then thought, right, I'm going to found a tech startup. So that's what I did. I got some investment to build an MVP, outsource the development work, built a small team around me, brought on a co-founder, and I can't describe that journey as anything other than hell. So, so it was literally 2.5 years of chronic anxiety, stress, long hours, near burnout. And I was like, is this what success looks like?
Right.
And we were getting traction, but, just the way I felt internally and the way my personal life was falling around me, I was like, I'm not sure about this. So this all culminated when my co-founder came to me and said, Sarah, I've got an investor that's going to put a large sum of money into the business. Aren't you happy? And I said, no. I said, I'm not happy because ethically, if I take that money, I have to be in the business for the next 3 to 5 years. And I honestly can't say that I want to do that. So I walked away. And the amount of emails I got afterwards from people being like, what are you doing? Why would you do this? It's doing so well. You've put so much into it. But I knew it was the right decision. And I knew that the reason why I started it was because it was a vanity project. I was literally like, I want to be a woman in tech. Won't that be fun? Silicon Valley, all of that. So I walked away and I said to myself, right, for the next 2 months, you're not going to start any new business. And the next time you start a business, it's going to be because you really feel the purpose and love behind it. So at that point, I came across transformational coaching. And it was so life-changing for me that I thought, wow, this is what I want to build a business doing. And so that's what I did. That's what I decided a few years ago now. And I eventually niched down to the clients that I work with. I love working with entrepreneurs because essentially I understand some of the struggles really clearly that they face. And it really helps me to empathize and understand what it is they need. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that was a nutshell version, David, but
No,
that's the story.
fantastic. That was fantastic. I love the background is so important because the journey of how you got to advise people, especially coaching, right, is so important because that experience is because you're hoping to help cut their time in half or whatever the time frame is, and hopefully they don't see some of the pitfalls. Hopefully they find what they like, and you help them doing that. So someone who's actually experienced it is I think invaluable. I mean, I think of over and over again when I meet other people in my industry that are starting up and trying to figure it out, and they're like, how did you do what you do? And I said, like, it literally is time invested. Like, there is every once in a while there's someone who nails it and they rise super quickly. We were kind of like that in the beginning, but everyone comes back down to earth at some point. Even Elon Musk's stock drops here and there. And he has to regroup on how he wants to focus his company, and it happens to even the biggest of businesses. So understanding your journey is so important. Explain transformational, and just excuse my ignorance of it, a transformational coaching, so everyone can understand what that means and what the value is in it.
So there are 2 types of coaching. There is transactional coaching and transformational coaching. Transactional is where you go to get a specific thing, right? So I had a fundraising coach when I had a startup. I've had a CV writing coach at some point when I was, back in the corporate world. These are all very transactional things. You come to them for a specific reason to get a specific outcome. Transformational coaching starts to go in at a deeper level to understand your mindsets, behaviors, perceptions, beliefs, etc., which affect your actions and impact in the outside world. So what was really interesting to me is if you actually sort out your internal world, you magnify the impact on the outer world. So the actions you take are magnified. And I was like, wow, I never realized that that was a thing, because I'd always been so pure action focused. So what I found really effective when working with my clients is a combination of the two, the transformational inner work. So why do you think like this? Why are you in survival mindset? Why are you scared of this particular thing, etc.? Why have you got this particular habit that's actually not serving you very well? And then taking steps to change that. And then also doing the necessary focus action steps you need to do to take your business to the next level.
Interesting. And how long typically do you work with people? Like, what is the kind of time frame that you help coach them? Are you with them in the long run? Are you with them in the beginning?
So my high growth company clients, I work with them usually, well, minimum 6 months, usually a year, and I usually stay with them for the longer term. So basically, if someone only wants to get sort of clarity on key pieces, that would be a shorter engagement. But where someone wants me supporting them through the business journey that they're on for that year, so they've said to me, okay, well, I need to 3x. I want to be with them during that time to hold them accountable to doing the things they need to do to actually 3x, because the version of them that got them to where they are is probably not the version of them that's going to get them to the next level. And then what often happens is they will bring me in to coach other people within the company, to do some group coaching with them as well. So I see it as a longer relationship. For a coach that wants to basically have this kind of tailored roadmap to build a 6-figure business, I have a 90-day program that someone walks through so that they get focused on the right things that they need to do, the small number of right things they need to do, I should add, in order to get to the result that they say they want.
Got it. Okay. So I want to get your opinions, because your industry is very needed, but there's so much information out there on it. So I'm gonna run through a couple guys, and actually there's a gal too that I can't believe I forgot her name though. She's wildly popular now. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, I have it here. All right, and I'm just curious about what you think is good that they do, and if there's something that you think is, All right, I'll start with a guy that me personally, I think is kind of, you know who Dan Locke is?
No, I don't.
Okay.
That's a good start.
Good start. Good. Okay. And if you don't know, you don't have to comment. How about Gary V? You probably know who Gary V is.
I do know Gary V. There's a lot of people commenting on Gary V. So my take on him is, I think he's incredibly hardworking and disciplined, and is prepared to put in crazy hours. So he is the 24/7 hustle guy. I assume it isn't actually 24/7. I hope it's not that much.
Right.
But who knows? So he is the guy that's the poster boy for, if you're going to put in the hours, you can be really successful financially, right? And I admire that about him. However, it just doesn't work and is not sustainable for everyone.
Right.
So I do have some clients that work crazy hours, and they're able to do that. But for most people, if you do that for more than a year or two, your health will be severely impacted. Probably your family and personal relationships will start to break down because you don't have any time to do anything. And so, although I appreciate what he does. It's personally, I've discovered, not my style. So my style is more like, how can we focus on a small amount of things that really create a big impact for you, for your business, so that actually you can build a sustainable, viable business without sacrificing your health, happiness, family, etc.
Right.
And I think probably at this stage, Gary Vee has a whole load of people like
Sure.
on his team helping him, but certainly to hear him speak, he is very much like the hustle culture.
Got it. Yep. He's from New Jersey, like I am, and it's funny because a lot of us know him as the guy behind the counter of his dad's, literally of his dad's liquor store. That's who he was. So he leveraged that successfully, very well. And it's interesting. And I was like, when I first started seeing him speak, like 2011, I'm like, I know this guy. How do I know this guy? And I had been to his dad's liquor store. That's how.
I never knew that about him.
Yes. So, yes. So he leveraged that whole. He used to do the wine library thing and successfully leveraged that into books and business. I mean, he's definitely an example of that. I think he's on your side of the pond. Dan Pena, you know who that is?
No.
No, okay. So he's a guy who like yells at people, and he has this big castle coach. I'll go check him out. How about Mel Robbins? She's the she wrote the book on basically like it's basically about taking action, and I don't know if you're familiar with her at all.
Is that Tony Robbins' wife?
Mel Robbins is no, I don't think so. I just think they have.
I'm just saying because I've heard Tony Robbins' wife speaking. I'm now struggling to remember what her name is, but
Let me because I could be. I don't think that's Tony. Yeah, that's not Tony Robbins' wife. Just has the same exact, because that's my next person too. But she basically talks about like mostly holding yourself accountable. And so, all right, my last one, I definitely know you'll have an opinion on Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, again, is a super disciplined, super high energy, super resilient guy. He came out of nowhere, right? Not much education, but he has a huge amount of charisma. And I've heard him speak. He had a Netflix documentary at one point as well.
Yes.
Not sure if it's still on there, but I think that he is also highly intuitive, having watched him. So you'll see that when he talks to different people in an audience, he will apply different ways of talking to them. So some people will be really strict with others, he'll be very soft and like almost cry with them. I think that's a really, really wonderful quality in a coach. He's also talks a lot about spirituality, manifestation, etc. And for me, I always love that combination of very logical, analytical action taking, the masculine or more masculine traits. And I say this because people tend to put traits into boxes. I don't think like that, but he has a combination of those traits with some of the more spiritual, law of attraction, manifestation traits as well. And I think that's a very powerful combination. However, having said that, he can almost be overwhelming, I think. So he's definitely not everyone's cup of tea. He does sit more on the hustle side of the equation as well. And believe me, I'm not taking away from there needs to be hustle. I mean, you can't just sit and think about a business and magic it into reality. Right. But thinking about it more holistically, what does success mean to me in all areas of my life rather than just one? I think it's important. But I certainly have gleaned a huge amount of value from things that I've watched about him, read about him, etc. and he's really paved the way for the coaching industry.
There's no doubt about it. Two other of my favorites are John Maxwell, much bigger on leadership and
Leadership, yeah.
yeah, and Brian Tracy, who's much bigger on the sales side of things. But I think it's all incredibly valuable. My last question really is what is your characteristics as a coach? What is it about you that I come to you and I'm looking for a coach in my business to help me? And you've talked a lot about this. It's interesting. You're on the Success for Life podcast. That's one of the things we're always trying to explore. And I started this podcast because I had such success, but not necessarily the life satisfaction component to it, and was trying to understand from others what they felt success was, right? And you talked a lot about it, which is awesome. It really is awesome. What is it that when they come to you, what is it that you're going to bring to the table for the entrepreneur?
So basically, it's interesting because when you were asking the question, it popped into my mind. So one of my clients ended up talking to another client of mine. He said, Sarah's not really the coach that's just soft with you and pats you on the head and makes you feel good. I'm there to make people uncomfortable. However, I'm not aggressive about it. So you mentioned someone that just shouts at people all the time.
Right.
That's not me. I am, though, incredibly assertive, will make you uncomfortable, will be there to sometimes say things that are a bit provocative. Because when you're in your comfort zone all the time, that's not when you achieve the greatest things. So I need to be able to push you out of that. So what I try to do when I coach someone is, number one, understand their internal world and understand what needs to change there. Number two, holistically understand what are they looking to create in their life in general. So what does holistic success look like? And then thirdly, I'm like, right, what actions do you need to take? What changes do you need to make? What are your focus areas over the short, medium, and long term?
That's really interesting. And I think that key component of understanding where they're at and where they're going to go to and helping them get there, and I think talking them through it is really, really a big asset to entrepreneurs, because we always feel alone, right? Because you always feel alone. Even when you talk with other entrepreneurs, you're still alone because they have their own set of issues. There may be some overlap, but they're so worried about what they have to do. There is, and I used to belong to for years for an EO group, and it was great. We talk about our issues, but nothing would get solved, right? So, because we would know, okay, these are things that we're dealing with, and coaches can help you figure out all of those type of things. Where can people find you, get a hold of you, get in touch with you, get your outstanding leadership to be a part of what they're doing?
So you can visit my website, which is sarasabin.com. I feel like I always have to spell that because I don't have an H at the end of my name, but I know in the US, actually, that's more common. So it's SARASABIN, all one word.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, specifically. If you want to check out some of my thought leadership around leadership and entrepreneurship, you can read my articles in the Entrepreneur magazine and the Fast Company. And I encourage anyone, reach out to me if you have any questions.
That's fantastic. It's been a pleasure having you on the Success for Life podcast. Until next time, thank you all for listening. Like, subscribe, and follow us. And shoot a comment as well if you really enjoy this podcast. We'll do more like it. Thanks again, Sara Sabin, for being on the Success for Life podcast.
Thank you, David.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.